coverings will be mandatory statewide. They must be worn when out in public, indoors or outdoors where physical distancing, we're talking about 6 feet from people who aren't in the same household, isn't possible. State Health Secretary Mandy Cohen says the trends are not heading in the right direction right now. Today marked the state's second highest hospitalization numbers on record and the second highest number of lab confirmed cases.
Now, this is not where we plan to be or wanted to be.
The state is expected to remain in phase 2 until July 17th. Good afternoon and welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Taheshah Moyes alongside Maddie Gardner, Eric Chilton and Christian Morgan.
Yes, this is an interactive news show. We chat with you and we hope that you'll chat back with us. We are streaming live right now on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Join our conversation and use our hashtag 4 to 5. Well, Governor Cooper just announced a statewide face covering requirement, and researchers at the University of Iowa have studied this very thing in at least 15 states and Washington, D.C. So let's connect the dots on how the mandate could save lives here in North Carolina.
For some, the debate over face masks has become a political fight, but new facts are emerging about what happened in states that mandated their use. Let's connect the dots. When coronavirus started to spread in the U.S., governments in at least 15 states and the District of Columbia issued orders requiring face masks. A new study by University of Iowa professors looks at what happened after those orders were put in place. It found that up to 450,000 cases may have been prevented by those mandates. The researchers did take into account other measures like shelter-in-place orders and social distancing and ran the numbers. What they found was 21 days after face coverings were mandated, hundreds of thousands of cases were averted. But the study also found not all face mask orders are created equal. New York was one of the strictest, with masks required in public or in any place where you can't practice social distancing. Other states only required them for businesses, and still others only for employees in those businesses. When it came to that employee-only face mask mandate, researchers found no evidence of a decline in COVID-19 growth.
And just to recap here, Governor Cooper just issued that requirement for the entire state. Of course, Greensboro's mask requirement went into effect yesterday at 5 o'clock, and it's when you can't maintain that 6 feet of space between you and someone else. But Eric, he also mentioned specifically that they need to be worn in restaurants, retail stores, and manufacturing plants.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's just the research is showing that it's the better thing to do. And I think all of us probably, in my opinion, just personal opinion here, you need to wear it as much as possible as you can, especially when you're inside. I think outside, given some distance, you're probably okay. But inside buildings, public or private, you need to exercise a little caution.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to this story in terms of enforcement. Who's in charge of that? Is it local entities, the police department, sheriff's department? Our team is working on answering those questions for you, and can find those answers coming up on WFMY News 2 at 11. In the meantime, we are still awaiting a decision from an Alamance County judge to decide if Ace Speedway will stay closed. The State Health Department filed a restraining order against the racetrack after the Speedway hosted 3 races with crowded stands, violating Phase 2 restrictions. Make sure you stay with WFMY News 2 for that decision.
Well, lawmakers are hoping that North Carolina can celebrate the 4th of July. A bill has passed both the Senate and the House. It would allow for 4th of July parades to actually happen across our state. Essentially, the bill exempts 4th of July celebrations from Governor Roy Cooper's restrictions. It would allow those celebrations to take place anywhere between the 1st of July and the 10th. Even though the bill has passed both chambers, it still needs Governor Cooper's signature.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup now. Davidson County deputies are looking for a missing 10-year-old boy in Lexington. Now, we're still waiting on a photo of the missing child from the sheriff's office, but here's what we know so far. They say Gabriel Wade Newton disappeared early this morning. They say he's 4'8", 78 pounds with short brown hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a dark-colored sleeveless t-shirt, khaki shorts, white socks, and dark shoes. And he was also last seen at his home on Horseshoe Neck Road. Americans could be blocked from traveling to countries in Europe because of the surge of coronavirus cases here in the United States. The European Union is currently considering a travel ban for countries with a per capita infection rate of 50 people infected per 100,000. Some other options are also being considered, like U.S. geographic-based restrictions to prevent people from certain areas with higher infection rates from coming to Europe. Americans have been kept from visiting the EU with few exceptions since mid-March. The states of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey are imposing a mandatory 2-week quarantine for visitors of certain states, including ours. So if a state has an infection rate of 10% or more, visitors will have to quarantine for 14 days before they visit. Right now, the list includes Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, Florida, North and South Carolina, Washington, Utah, and Texas. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo says the list can change, and his office plans to provide daily updates. And United Way of Greater Greensboro is working to feed kids this summer through their Meaningful program. They partner with Backpack Beginnings and the Volunteer Center of the Triad, and they're asking for your help. To make a difference, they say you just need to fill a box with food and drop it off at Backpack Beginnings. The donated food makes sure local kids who rely on school for food don't go hungry.
I'll tell you what, it's not a bad summer day across the Triad. In fact, our temperatures are a little bit lower. We're in the lower 80s across the Triad right now. 83 in Greensboro, 82 in Asheboro, and 80 over in Lexington. And you notice it feels a little bit better outside. Our dew points are about 10 degrees in some locations cooler than they were yesterday. That means it's just not quite as humid. And it's a good looking summer day. Just a few of those regular old summer clouds in the sky today. On the radar, things are quiet. We do have some showers and storms down to our south, but for the most part, we stay dry as we head through the rest of the evening hours. So overnight, we actually do see some clouds start to thicken up a little bit. Temperatures will be in the upper 60s to near 70. Thursday is going to be a mainly dry day of weather, but we can't rule out a few storms in the evening hours as well. But after that, we are dry for several days and just hot. Temperatures warming up back close to 90 again over the weekend, and we'll slowly start adding in chances for some summertime pop-up storms over the next several days as well.
Bubba Wallace says he's relieved to hear results of the FBI's investigation. He tweeted this morning saying, "Integrity, something nobody will ever be able to take away from me. God will always test us to show how strong we truly are. Still standing proud and still smiling." The FBI determined Wallace was not the victim of a hate crime. There was a noose that was found in a Talladega garage, and it was hung as early as October of 2019 before Wallace was assigned to the garage. That's what the FBI's investigation found. Well, NASCAR released a statement saying the rope was a pull-down rope resembling a noose. Wallace says despite the investigation, the rope in his mind was a noose.
We're all kind of hypersensitive to what's going on in the world right now.
And why Ryan Blaney, Bubba's friend.
NASCAR is still investigating to manage how the noose got in the garage in the first place. And I know there was a lot of chatter on social media when this news broke. I am pleased to see that Bubba hasn't lost his spirit. He's going to continue going on in the mission that he started when he started in this sport. Eric.
Yeah, I think, I was relieved to hear that, and to hear it, actually, to be honest with you, to hear it coming from him, added some credibility. I think, a lot of people, I think when they first heard that, they still didn't believe it. And then when Bubba himself came forward and said that, it is a big relief. But I kind of still believe that it sheds light on the fact that there's only one African-American driver in NASCAR. And, maybe this will open things up for that sport a little bit more.
I'm glad the NASCAR made the decision to call in the FBI and to take this seriously in the first place. And I'm also relieved that it wasn't a noose and that he wasn't the victim of a hate crime. It's good to see that, things are not as bad as they seemed a couple of days ago in that situation. But again, this was just 24 hours, a whirlwind, certainly, this entire story. And glad to know that the investigation is over and we know what really happened.
All right, let's talk about this. In other news, Downtown Greensboro, Inc., they want some input to an online survey. They put this up online. This is for businesses that were damaged in protest at the end of May. The city council did approve $250,000 to repair businesses. For access to that grant money, though, the business owners have to fill out that survey form. In order to get that, you go to downtowngreensboro.org.
Well, protests continue around the nation. In Wisconsin, crowds tore down 2 statues and reportedly attacked a state senator. Democratic Senator Tim Carpenter claims that he was assaulted after taking photos of protesters. A statue of Wisconsin's motto "Forward" and Colonel Hans Christian Hegg were dragged from the State House there. Hegg was an anti-slavery activist who was killed in the Civil War. Protesters gathered to call for the release of a black man reportedly arrested for causing a disturbance at a restaurant. More of the 4 to 5 after this break.
Georgia lawmakers have passed a hate crimes bill. The bill would set a mandatory sentence for anyone convicted of a hate crime. It was introduced after the death of Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed by 2 white men while jogging. This means those convicted could face additional prison time or fines on top of the sentences for the type of crime, such as manslaughter. Now, if the governor signs the legislation, only 3 states in the U.S. will not have a hate crime law in place, including South Carolina, Wyoming, and Arkansas.
And the governor in Massachusetts is now introducing a bill that would hold law enforcement more accountable. It offers bonuses to police officers who take de-escalation training. Officers have to take the training in order to be certified. Now, first-time officers would have to have that certification moving forward. The bill also allows for decertification, suspension, or punishment of officers for misconduct. There would also be a committee that would form to offer departments tools and to build trust and relationships with their communities. The state's lieutenant governor says the bill gives departments the ability to make stronger recruiting and hiring decisions.
The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Board of Education is in the process of renaming one high school. The board met about the issue Tuesday night concerning Vance High School. Now, the high school's full name is Zebulon B. Vance High School. Vance was a 2-time governor of North Carolina, a United States senator, and an officer in the Confederate military. Now, the district superintendent says changing the name is largely symbolic, but feels it's an important step in the right direction. A new name for the high school has not yet been announced.
Action NC wants Charlotte leaders to fund violence interrupters. This idea was pushed out after a fatal shooting on Beatties Ford Road in Charlotte. 4 people died and 10 people were hurt. So interrupters are people with a criminal past or victims of crimes who would participate in large gatherings that could possibly turn violent. The idea is to have community members around to help deter other people from turning violent. Charlotte Councilman Malcolm Graham says the council is seriously considering this idea.
Well, violence interrupters, by the way, not a new concept. It's something a lot of cities around the country have installed, including right here in the Triad. Forsyth County and the city of Greensboro both have their own versions of this. Greensboro City Council approved funding for the, quote, Cure Violence. That program treats violent crime as a health issue. The program targets 2 areas of East Greensboro where gun violence is dominant. Forsyth County has a Saturation Patrol initiative, which is designed so that officers and deputies can spend more time in areas with a high number of violent crimes. All right, we'll have more of the 4 to 5 straight ahead. Stay right there. We'll be back. Playing bingo, that has been a thing for decades. My mother used to love to play bingo. We'd go to the beach when I was a kid. But thanks to Greensboro's Parks and Rec department, you can now play bingo like never before. We checked in with Jennifer Hans to get the scoop.
You know, Jennifer, we hear about a lot of virtual events, but I have never heard of car bingo. Please explain to me how this is going to work.
We are so excited about car bingo. So what it is, it's going to be a good old-fashioned game of bingo, except people will be sitting in their cars. So what they'll do is they'll come into the Greensboro Sportsplex, and we're going to park people in the parking lot, and we will have transmission into people's cars through their radio.
So this is really a safe way, right? We're social distancing here, and everybody's in their cars. You guys were just thinking, hey, it's a safe way to have fun, and heck, they could have their dinner in the car while they do it.
Absolutely. It's really a great way for people to be able to get out of their house and have a good, fun time with their entire family, but still be safe. Because what we'll do is as people pull in, we'll leave a space between each car, so that way cars are not sitting right next to each other. So people can roll down their windows if they want, but we will have people staying inside their cars for the games.
So the big question is, are there prizes?
Oh, yes, of course. What's a good game of bingo without a prize, right? You get to yell bingo and then you get something fun. So we're really excited because we're partnering with some of our local universities as well as local businesses here in Greensboro to provide prizes for the different rounds of bingos. And of course, we'll have some Parks and Rec swag in there, some of these cool shirts that I have on, as well as different things, passes, things like that. So we're really excited to be able to partner with some of our local businesses and universities to be able to provide prizes for the games.
Well, Jennifer, it's a really cool idea. Can't wait to see some images from this. Have fun, and thanks for letting us be a part of it.
It's really cool in talking with her. This is one of a series of events that they're going to have, all kinds of different things. In fact, in a little bit, we're going to talk about a virtual fishing tournament that they have. But I love the idea of car bingo and the fact that you can listen to the bingo person through your car radio. It's pretty cool technology.
Yeah, it's a la drive-in movie theater almost, where you would tune in to the same radio station.
Yes.
But she had me in when she said swag and you could get a T-shirt, because I love a good T-shirt. So if I can get a T-shirt that says Greensboro on it,
it's free.
I'm in there. Well, it's free because you earned it, because you won.
In the words of Taheshah Moise, if it's free, it's for me.
Exactly.
I love that quote. It's one of my favorite quotes of yours. No, but I love that people are just, coming up with new ways to do these big events like this. They know that they can't pack people into a room to play bingo, so why not put people in their cars? I love it.
I just feel like you can't get the same bingo
It's
loudness.
perfect for a family to get together and maybe bring some takeout food or something. It's a good way to do it.
Ooh, food involved. Now we're thinking.
Always thinking about the
Okay.
food. More of the 4 to 5s coming up after this. Join us live on Facebook. We're chatting with you in the comments. Welcome back to your 4 to 5. Okay, we've all heard about the Loch Ness Monster for decades now, but a tourist photo showing something in the water has sparked a whole new discussion on whether Nessie exists or not. Let's take a closer look here. This is the photo from Yahoo News. Stephen Chalice says he was in Scotland on vacation last September when he saw some ripples in the water. He snapped a picture, and when he looked at it, he saw a huge fish of some kind. The internet was buzzing about this, but if you read his blog, he says he's determined that it was just a giant catfish.
Well, I asked you on Facebook because this made me think about all the legends and monsters and urban legends and ghost stories around the area. What is your favorite, whether it's local or national? And here's what some of you had to say. People were in agreement here for the most part. Michael Lee said, the girl at the railroad underpass in Jamestown. And Beth Johnson agreed. She said, oh, Lydia, the ghost in Jamestown that comes out in rainy, foggy weather asking for a ride home. This was my favorite comment, though. Crystal McLean says, definitely Bigfoot. I see him every day. I know exactly where he lives. LOL. I hope she's not talking about her husband. That would be bad.
I don't know what else she could be talking about. People really do believe that Bigfoot is here in North Carolina in the Uwharrie National Forest. That's a thing.
Yes, it is a thing. And I remember we actually did a story on it a few months ago, and you could see the huge footprints. A little unnerving for me.
I don't know if I believe in any of it, but it is fun to hear about and to research and to look into. Chilton, do you have one?
Oh, I love the ghost legends.
Yeah, I think if you're from Mount Airy, you might know a ghost legend that has ties to the hospital there and also to my childhood home. So that's always a little bit unnerving, as Taheshah said. Yeah. All right, Christian. Urban legend here is that it's just hot and dry. Can you prove that?
Yeah, we're not really worried about the Loch Ness Monster and weather. We are worried about the heat miser, though, and it will be making a return as we head into the weekend. Temperature-wise right now, it's not a bad summer afternoon. Temperatures are in the low 80s all across the Triad, and things are dry. There are some storms to our south as the cold front that has crossed our area today is kind of stalled out along the North Carolina-South Carolina border, but that's where most of those storms will stay today. We have high pressure. It is drier high pressure, so we have a little less humidity in the air, and that will stay in play for the next couple of days. We're also going to be talking about some of this dust from the Sahara Desert impacting us over the weekend. And on this visible satellite image, you can see it very faint, but there is a little bit of haze moving out of the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. Some of that dust will reach us really over the weekend, basically watching Saturday to that Monday time frame. Overnight, clouds will be on the increase a little bit. Temperatures in the upper 60s to near 70. Partly sunny for your Thursday. We do have a low storm chance, and it will be in the mid 80s for afternoon highs, but it's a dry and hot 7-day forecast as we get to the weekend.
Connector. Hi, mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't find my connector to put this IFB in. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check.
I got you. Your mic sounds fine.
Okay, good.
Good afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Taheshah Moyes, Eric Tilton, and Christian Morgan on this Wednesday afternoon.
This is an interactive newscast and we like to chat with you during our commercial break. So you can do that by joining the live stream either on Facebook or YouTube on WFMY News 2's page and use that hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected.
Face coverings are a simple way to control this virus while protecting ourselves, our families, and the other people around us. One important point here. Required face coverings not only cause zero harm to our economy, they in fact help our economy.
So 2 big takeaways from Governor Cooper's press conference in Raleigh this afternoon. First, face coverings are required now. And second, North Carolina will stay in phase 2 for at least another 3 weeks. So back to those face coverings. They have to be worn in public, indoors or outdoors, where you can't keep 6 feet between you and people who don't live with you. State Health Secretary Mandy Cohen says the trends in COVID-19 in our state are not heading in the right direction. Today marked the state's 2nd highest hospitalization numbers on record and the 2nd highest number of lab confirmed cases. So the Guilford County Sheriff's Office is now explaining how the mandatory face mask rules fit with concealed carry laws. Typically, a person licensed to carry concealed handguns is not allowed to cover their face. However, it is legal for someone with that license to cover their face to protect themselves from the virus. During a traffic stop, North Carolinians need to remove their face coverings or if they're involved in any kind of investigation.
So lawmakers are voting to possibly overturn Governor Cooper's veto to reopen bars and gyms in North Carolina. So they want to reopen the bars and gyms while we're still in phase 2 before phase 3. Governor Cooper vetoed both attempts previously at this. The House is voting on a possible veto override. It would need what's called a supermajority to move that vote to the Senate.
Some new numbers from the CDC show coronavirus death rates are among Black and Latino people are higher than other group. If you take a look at the orange line here, it shows the death rate for Black Americans. Now, Greensboro City Councilwoman Sharon Hightower participated in an effort to bring awareness to the gap in the death rate and mentions that there is free testing available.
I personally made sure that testing was happening in East Greensboro. Initially, it was not. And that became a concern for me, especially because the people impacted the greatest live in East Greensboro.
Councilwoman Hightower says the city will hand out masks to anyone who needs one. And starting this week, there will be testing in communities with the highest number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. The next free testing opportunity is Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Peeler Recreation Center. It's open to all Guilford County residents. Walk-ins are welcome, but you can also schedule an appointment with the Guilford County Health Department.
Alamance County Public Libraries are now letting people use their computers. So you do need to schedule an appointment and you can do that starting on Monday. You're also limited to 1 hour of computer use a day. The libraries, by the way, are still not open to the public.
It's time for your 4 to 5 roundup. South Dakota's governor is promising to protect Mount Rushmore as protesters across the country tear down statues and monuments that have ties to racism. Governor Kristi Noem responded to a tweet by the author Ben Shapiro that said, "So when is our woke historical revisionist priesthood going to insist on blowing up Mount Rushmore?" Well, Governor Noem replied saying, "Not on my watch." Mount Rushmore is made up of the faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. A UNC professor is weighing in on President Trump's recent threat to arrest anyone who damages a federal monument. President Trump cited the Veterans Memorial Preservation Act. Well, the UNC professor, Rick Sue, says that law only pertains to federal statues that commemorate someone's service in the armed forces of the United States. Sue says it raises the question about whether Confederate statues fall into that. He says those who served the Confederacy served in armed forces, yes, but not the United States, adding that was the point of the Civil War. In other news, GNC is planning to close nearly 1,400 stores in the U.S. and Canada after filing for bankruptcy. GNC said the closures will help it cut costs as it attempts to emerge from bankruptcy over the next year and will save the chain from shutting down completely. GNC's list of store closures is not known, but on Tuesday, the retailer updated a previously disclosed list of stores that are set to be shuttered. The list included 248 locations. 5 of them here in North Carolina are on that list, including the one store in Greensboro at the Four Seasons Town Center. The Women's Only 5K in Greensboro is going virtual this year. Registration opens on July 1st, and you can do that by heading to womensonly5k.com. This year, participants will have 6 days to complete the 5K from September 28th to October 3rd. Cone Health says no matter what, the race will inspire, empower, and celebrate breast cancer survivors and fighters.
Well, the FDA recently advised people to stop using 9 different brands of hand sanitizer, citing that there's possible toxic chemicals in them. Let's break down how those chemicals manage to get into these sanitizers.
The FDA has recently advised consumers to not use 9 brands of hand sanitizer produced by Esk Biochem due to the potential presence of toxic methanol, or wood alcohol. According to the FDA, methanol is not an acceptable ingredient for hand sanitizers and should not be used due to its toxic effects. Normally, hand sanitizer is made out of ethanol, or grain alcohol. The FDA recommends that consumers who have been exposed to hand sanitizer containing methanol should seek immediate treatment, which is critical for potential reversal of toxic effects of methanol poisoning. Substantial methanol exposure can result in nausea, vomiting, headache, blurred vision, permanent blindness, seizures, coma, permanent damage to the nervous system, or death. The FDA and CDC continue to advise everyone to wash their hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds after any hand contamination has taken place. If soap and water are not available, 60% ethanol-based hand sanitizer can be used in its place.
All in all, it's a nice summer day across the Triad. You can see that look on our weather stem camera over UNC Greensboro. Some sunny skies, just a few clouds in the area, and we also have an unwanted visitor on our camera too, a wasp that you might have seen there. Temperature-wise, we're in the lower 80s across the Triad this afternoon, and we do have a little bit lower humidity as well, so it feels a little bit better outside. All is dry across the Triad. There are some storms to our south in South Carolina, but that's mainly where they're going to stay. We have high pressure building in. It's drier high pressure, so we do keep the lower, at least slightly lower humidity around for a couple days. But then as we get to the weekend, we're going to have to talk about some of this dust moving off the Sahara Desert that could impact us over the weekend, and we may even start to notice some of it as early as Friday with some reduced air quality. So if you have asthma or breathing problems, you might want to consider spending a little more time indoors as we head into the weekend. Overnight temperatures in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees for your Thursday. It's going to be a mainly dry day, temperatures in the mid 80s, but we do have a low chance of getting some scattered storms in the afternoon. We'll keep our eyes on the radar. Coming up on your 4 to 5, we'll take a look at your full 7-day forecast.
The New York City Marathon is canceled because of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, that marathon was originally scheduled for November 1st. The world's largest marathon is canceled, and it had a world record of more than 53,000 finishers last year. Racers, of course, will get a full refund for their entry fee or guaranteed entry to either the 2021, 2022, or 2023 races. Next year's marathon is scheduled for November 7th. Racers are invited, though, to participate in a virtual marathon from October 17th to November 1st. Those details will be released in July.
Well, a Greensboro runner started a new challenge during quarantine, and she's now inviting everyone across the country to join her.
So here's what you had to do. Run 1 mile at the top of every hour, and whoever ran the most miles won. WFMY News 2's Amanda Ferguson talks with the woman who started it all and happened to be the winner, too.
It was something a Greensboro woman wanted to do to bring people together while we're apart. At first, it was a joke, but then people were interested, running 1 mile every hour. But how long could that last? It ended up going on for 11 days. This is Sally Van Newland. Her and her boyfriend were joking one day about creating an easier version of a difficult race that only elite runners participate in. So they took to Facebook and challenged people all over the country to run 1 mile at the top of every hour. The only rules were you had to run outside. You had 5 minutes to get started, but you had to be done with the mile by 45 minutes after. Sally ended up winning, running 250 miles in 11 days. I asked her how she stayed so motivated.
Oh, there's nothing better than getting outside and getting fresh air. I mean, even if it's just going for a walk, you know, and you just gotta set little goals and put one foot in front of the other. I mean, I only started running, well, gosh, now I guess it's been 10 years, seems like yesterday, but I couldn't run an entire block. You know, I made it like 2 houses past my house and was gasping for air and thought, I'll never be a runner. And now I run races of over 100 miles, over 200 miles.
How do you run every hour of every day? So I asked Sally, and she said she had to sleep like 15, 20 minutes in between to get her sleep in. Now she's about to run another race next month, and she's gonna have to run as many miles as she can in 24 hours. So I'm gonna go change and put on my running shoes and go run 1 mile. No time limit.
I'm not even doing that.
No, it's too hot. Sorry.
But good for her. I was asking Taheshah during Amanda's story. So she did this every hour on the hour, even overnight.
Yes, which means she had to set an alarm and get her family in on it to wake her up so that she could go run. I know if my family tried to wake me up to go run,
punches would be thrown.
Something would be happening to them. Sorry. But you know what? I've tried running and I can't get into it. I tried it before the coronavirus when I could run inside in AC on a treadmill. Now I don't have that option, and I'm definitely not going to do it outside. So I will maybe do some squats. I can do that.
Yeah. Well, I admire anyone who can run, but especially anyone who can run 1 mile on the hour every hour.
More power to her.
Nope. We'll be right back.
If you are planning to fly out of Raleigh, you're going to notice a few changes at RDU. They're working to make things safer for both passengers and employees as well. They're putting in extra hand sanitizing stations all around the airport. You'll also see more signage, which promotes social distancing, and protective barriers at the ticket counters as well. Most airlines are already requiring passengers to wear a mask on board.
Now, you may be wondering, why can you fly but you can't cruise? Well, doctors from the University of South Florida say the big takeaways are business and the size and amount of people. If you know, planes hold less people than cruise ships, and the length of time for a trip on a plane is shorter. There are also more sanitation and air circulation challenges on a ship. One doctor says it's important to take a look at behaviors as well. People tend to socialize more on cruises than planes.
Well, how about getting a tax break to go on vacation? That's what an Arizona senator is proposing. The legislation encourages Americans to support the tourism industry after the COVID-19 pandemic. If it passes, you'd get $4,000 in travel credit for an individual or $8,000 for joint filers through January 1st, 2022. It would also include an additional $500 credit for dependent children. You would need to travel more than 50 miles away from your home to get the credit.
So I posted this story on my Facebook page today and wanted to get your thoughts on this proposal. So let's take a look at what you had to say today. Pamela writes, who wants a vacation with numbers going up with the virus and predicted to get worse? They should give it to help people pay their bills so they don't lose their homes, cars, etc. Amy Adams writes, but more hot spots are showing up, so wouldn't it be more dangerous to travel right now? Has everyone who filed for unemployment been paid yet? That needs to be taken care of first. And Tamara Johnny writes, that money should go to people who have lost their jobs and the small businesses that have gone under or are still struggling to stay afloat. So a lot of the discussion on my Facebook page, guys, was let's take care of some people who are struggling first before we start talking about the tourism, if I could talk, industry. But on the flip side, there are people in the tourism industry that aren't making any money right now because their businesses aren't seeing those same numbers. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, it really is. I feel I'm conflicted with this because, it's like everybody wants a vacation right now, just something to get away. But you have to vacation differently, I think, now, and just kind of keep to yourself and more of a tight-knit, if you're going to go to the beach like that, a beach house is maybe the best way to go so you're not in a big resort area, that type of thing. But it's tough because the industry, people have to make a living. On the other side, there's safety, and it's just kind of a balance.
Right, and the key here is that would be for travel after the pandemic, and that's why that tax credit extends until the first of the year in 2022, because we're still waiting on a vaccine for coronavirus, and I know a lot of people are making their decisions on vacation depending on what the virus looks like and if there is any immunization for that just yet. So let us know your thoughts about this. We always want to hear what you have to say. We're live on Facebook right now. Join our comments section. Use our hashtag Ford5. We have breaking news right now. A judge has made a decision on the Ace Speedway case. The judge ruled in favor of the state health department's restraining order to keep Ace Speedway in Alamance County shut down. The restraining order was filed after the Speedway held 3 race events despite Governor Cooper's safer at home order without limiting the number of fans who were allowed at the track. Again, the judge ruled in favor of the state's restraining order against Ace. We'll have more coming up on WFMY News 2 at 5.
You know, every fisherman has that typical the one that got away story. But Greensboro Parks and Rec Department, they put a virtual spin on fishing. It's a virtual fishing tournament. You want to know as well as I did, how does this work? I checked in with Jennifer Hance for the answers.
So Jennifer, virtual fishing contest. I could not visualize in my head how this is going to play out. What will this look like?
So we're really excited to be hosting our first youth virtual fishing program. Our traditional fishing programs, people catch fish, they bring them up to the office at the lake and we weigh those. But we decided we really wanted to do something a little different since we are focusing on social distancing and things of that nature right now. So with this virtual fishing contest, what will happen is people will go to one of the 3 city lakes, like Higgins, Brant, or Townsend. When they catch their fish, they're going to hold that fish up. They're going to hold the yardstick or ruler next to it, take a picture, and then they're going to send that picture to us. So the winners will be the longest fish instead of the heaviest.
So are we doing this for different age groups, or how are you separating that?
Yes, so we will be separating them by age group. It's for 17 and under because it is a youth competition that we're doing. So our categories will be 6 and under. We'll do a category for 7 to 12 years old, and then 13 to 17 years old.
I mean, let's face it, our lakes are beautiful, and some of the kids, you know, may not have experienced this. This is a good way to get them out and let them know what's in their own backyards.
Absolutely. The lakes that we have here in Greensboro are really lovely facilities, and it really is a great opportunity to introduce people to our lakes that might not have seen them before, and also to introduce people to fishing that maybe haven't fished before. They can fish on our piers or they can go out on a boat. So it's a really great opportunity not just to be, learn about our lakes, but it's a great opportunity to learn about fishing itself.
Always a good time. Thanks, Jennifer. We appreciate it. Best of luck.
You know, it's not a bad summer day across the Triad. A little less humidity and temperatures are in the lower 80s. 83 in Greensboro, 83 in Winston-Salem as well. Our dew points are a little more comfortable, near 60, even some upper 50s in places. That just makes things feel a little bit better. Things are dry across the Triad. We do have some storms to our south, really in South Carolina, and that's mainly where they're going to stay. We've had a cold front slowly crossing our area. We have high pressure building in behind that, and it's slightly drier air, so that will keep our humidity in check for a couple days. But we are going to have to talk about some of this Saharan dust that will be moving into the area as we head towards the weekend. That could impact our air quality and make for some hazy skies. So tomorrow you're fine, but by Friday we may see some of this dust starting to filter in, and that could lower our air quality. If you have breathing problems, you might want to spend some more time indoors. Upper 60s to near 70 tonight, mid 80s tomorrow with a very low storm chance. Warming up close to 90 as we head into the weekend.